Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you all have joined. My name is Imani Kumar. I'm the Regional Director with ICLEI South Asia. ICLEI, ICLEI, ICLEI is a city association all over the world, and we are representing the South Asian operations. Our headquarters is in Bonn in Germany, and we have more than 17 offices all over the world. And we are happy that today we have joined Gobeshona Global Conference. And as part of the Climate Development Knowledge Network, CDKN, we are doing this 1.5 hour session on the urban resilience planning in Bangladesh, development and integration in national planning process. We have our partners, South North from Africa, from Cape Town, and we also have Futuro, the Latin American FLA, actually Latin American City Association, and we have BODI, also our partner with us. We have funding coming from the Netherlands government and IDRC, and we are thankful to them for supporting the CDKN activities on that. Just to give you the housekeeping rules, which I will say the session is being recorded, and I hope everybody is okay with that. And we request the Q&A box for any questions to the speakers which you want to ask. This will be answered during the Q&A session and after the panel presentation. And if you're having technical difficulties, please send a message via chat box so that we can select whether to send a message to all participants or panelists. For the best webinar experience, avoid multitasking. That's what we request everybody to please concentrate on this. Close all non-essential applications on your device, particularly messaging apps such as Skype and all. And complete all polls at the start, at the end of the session through our monitoring and evaluation process. So this is one request from our side to join this session. Today's session, we have, I'll just finish maybe in a few minutes on the opening remarks. And I'm so happy that Dr. Salimul Haq is with us. I know he is pressing time on that, so we requested him to be part of the, give some special remarks on that. And my colleague Shruti will present on the policy brief which we have prepared. And I'm also happy that Dr. Munjirul Khan is there with us today, technical expert as well as from the government of Bangladesh. He will launch the policy brief, and then we will have panel discussion. I'm so happy also that we have rich, experienced panel members today with us. And then we have Q&A and closing remarks on that. Before I close the opening remarks, maybe I'll just talk about a little bit about the Knowledge Accelerator project, which we are doing as part of the CDKN. CDKN is mainly focusing on making information and learning on the climate compatible development easier to access and use. In support of ambitious climate action, we have adopted in 3 areas of work. One is on the knowledge, engagement, and peer learning. These are the 3 areas of the 3 products which we are concentrating mostly on that. So wherever the knowledge is available, which we are happy to either encapsulate again or bring whatever you have that, we engage with all the stakeholders, in-depth country engagement and support on the knowledge into the action. And we will do a peer-to-peer learning or a city-to-city learning or the knowledge going into the to other people on that. Next slide. These are the 4 thematic areas which we are working as part of the CDKN: water, food, energy nexus, gender equity and social inclusion, cities and subnational governments, and climate finance on that, which are very much, I was just talking to Dr. Salimul Haq, also very much needed all over the world. So these are the areas, 4 thematic areas which we are focusing on that. Once again, on behalf of ICLEI, CDKN partners, on behalf of Gobeshona, we welcome all of you for this session. And I will just request Dr. Salimul Haq, maybe if he can give us the special remarks. Dr. Saab, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Imani. Good morning. Assalamu alaikum to everybody, and welcome to this session, which is in the last day of this 7-day long Gobeshona conference. I'm going to give you a little bit of background about the conference, give some guidance on what we are expecting out of sessions like this, and and then a little bit about our future plans. So for those of you who are not aware of what Gobeshona means, it's a Bangla word for research, and it is the name of a platform that we set up in Bangladesh 7 years ago to bring together the research community working on climate change around the country. We currently have well over 50 universities, research organizations, NGOs. ICLEI is a member of long-standing. And among the many things that we do, which I won't describe, we have been holding a major annual conference every January. In past years, the last 6 years, we held this as a physical in-person conference with several hundred people over 4 days coming to our university, the Independent University Bangladesh in Dhaka. ICLEI was a regular participant in that, many different sessions on different topics. But this year, since we cannot travel because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we decided to go online. And I should also mention that the previous years we used to get a substantial number of international participants as well, but they had to travel to Dhaka to participate. This year we decided to go online, and since we were online, we decided to reach out to global partners to see if they wish to join us, and made it into a global uh, uh, meeting event rather than a Bangladesh specific one. And the theme is on locally led adaptation, which is particularly relevant for ICLEI, since you work with local governments. And we got an overwhelming response of offers to hold sessions, uh, which then allowed us, or we decided to have the sessions. We had well over 90 sessions over 7 days and run them 24 hours a day. Today is the seventh day. For the last 6 days, we have had sessions. We do them in three major 8-hour segments. The first 8 hours aimed at the Asia Pacific region, second 8 hours are aimed at Europe and Africa regions, the third 8 hours at the North America, South America, Central America region. Many of the South American sessions are in Spanish because that's the language there. And then we start again in the Asia Pacific and go around the world. And we've done that already 6 times. Today as our last day. We will be finishing later this evening. So it has been a huge success. Every session has been excellent. A lot of participation. We've had people from all over the world participate. And one of the other observations that we have had is that the recordings of the sessions we put up and we publicize, and the recordings actually get more people watching than the live, because live at a given time, not everybody is available to watch it live. But when they see the content and they're interested in it, they can watch it in their own time, at their own leisure. And that actually reaches people much more effectively because they are the ones who are interested. They won't watch it if they're not interested. And so the number of people participating is really not a good indicator of the number of people you will reach in the session going forward, as we publicize it after the conference is over. And we will give you the recording and the report, which you can also publicize to the ICLEI networks around the world. Now, let me say a little bit about expectations from a session like this. We would like, obviously, to hear about things that you are doing, but we also would like to encourage you to have some discussions about planning, what next, what to do next, not just show and tell, I've done this, we've done that, and then that's it, it's all over. Also, I would recommend, it's being the last day, but we have a number of sessions left, that our participants and session organizers do not just think of running their own session, presenting their own work, and then disappearing. There are 90 other sessions. If you don't participate in other people's sessions and listen to them, then you are defeating the purpose of this enterprise. It's not just for you to come and talk. You have to listen also. And so I would recommend that, look at the few sessions that we have left, maybe today if you have time, but then visit back again. Come back and look at the sessions that you may have missed, look at the recordings, and listen to other people. If you don't listen to other people and all you want to do is talk, then I'm afraid we won't invite you back again. Okay, so this is a sort of a soft warning for participation. Either you participate genuinely, or if you just want to tell people about yourself and then you go away and you don't want to listen to any other but anybody else what they're doing, then that defeats the purpose of this networking exercise. And then the final point I want to share with you is that we have now decided, given the success of this event, that we will retain this online format for the future, for the next 10 years. We're not going back to the old format of everybody coming to Dhaka. And we will stay global, and we will stay focused on locally led adaptation. But we will make one difference, and we invite partners to have a long term relationship with us, and particularly ICLEI. This is not a one off. We want you to come back every year, but every year I'm going to raise the bar. So for next year's session, what I'm asking you, and I'm going to ask everybody, all the session leaders who did sessions during this 7 days, to put us in touch with the local leaders that have been generated out of your programs, investments, work, whatever you've been doing. Put us in touch now, okay, after the conference in February. We want, from our side, we want to engage with them, learn about them, get in touch with them, network with them. And next year, January 2022, last week of January 2022, we will invite you back, but we will also invite those local leaders because they are the ones we want to hear from. They can speak in their own language. We will arrange translation for that. So next year's program will be much more focusing on the local leaders who have in emerged out of programs. It's not about you telling us about, we have this program here and program there. That show and tell aspect we want to get out of. We want to be in a learning aspect. What are we learning? And the organizations I am asking, and I've already done this for all the major organizations who have been presenting, is we ask you again not to do show and tell, but to do reflection. Reflect on your experience and on particularly the how successful or unsuccessful you have been in growing local leadership. That is the metric by which we are going to judge you. We don't care how much money you do, how many projects you have. Show us the local leaders that you have been able to produce or not been able to produce. If you had a big program in a city and there's no local leader that you can show us, then I don't think that that's a particularly impressive investment on your part. So local leadership is the key to our future planning. And ICLEI, I know I have great respect for ICLEI's work. I know you have local leaders all over the world. I would really like you to take this very seriously, become a major strategic partner with Gobeshona every year. We're going to do this every year. Every January, we'll come together and we will share progress, not look back in what we are doing, but reflect on what we are doing and how do we take it forward and how do we network across the globe. So what we are now doing is, as I said, this is the 7th year of the old Gobeshona series, but it's the first year of a new series. Starting in 2021, we will go to 2030, the next 10 years. We're starting what we are calling a 10-year journey. We invite everybody to join us on this 10-year journey. And every year, we will come back and we will see how we can improve our effectiveness as a community. And what we have effectively done, and this year, this experiment has really proven, is that we can link together local actions all over the world. So local and global, but not local to global decision makers, local to local in every other different city. And I'll just end with an example. Last night, I had a discussion with the resilience officer of the town of Providence in Rhode Island in the United States, the state of Rhode Island. And we had a very interesting conversation about what they're doing and how it's very similar to things that are happening in other parts of the world. And it's surprising how much similarity there is. You would not think it. Contexts are very different, but there are also a lot of similarities in the how things happen. How do you do them rather than in the what the problem is? The problem may be a very different problem in different places, but how do you tackle it? And in particular, the the universal fact, now I will claim this to be a universal fact, that the most vulnerable population in any city or any country will always end up being the poorest people in that city and country. This is true in the United States, it's true in the UK, it's true in Bangladesh, and it's true all over the world. So, poor people, often immigrants, often people of color, they are the victims in every situation. So, how does one deal with that, recognize that, work with that, prioritize them, and enable them? And as our theme says, give them some leadership, not just see them as targets and beneficiaries of programs, top down programs, but as leaders of taking their own lives into consideration and changing their own lives. So that is really our transformational objective. And I see personally ICLEI being a very, very strong partner if you are willing to put some time and effort in working with us going forward. So I'll stop there, Imani. Sorry to have taken so much time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Salim al Haq. And I like that when we actually talked 2 years back about Gobeshona, I was very keen since then. I have gone through a lot of papers last year once. And I will, as I said, I will go through some of your sessions this time again. And we will be ready for 2022 January with local leaders to showcase some of the examples. And I promise that I don't talk next time, and local leader will talk with you and other partners. This thing. And thanks for giving us this opportunity to join with you on this research with local led adaptation. I think that is what is needed all over the world. And we together, I know that we can generate more leaders like that and more knowledge like this, so that everybody can benefit out of that. It's a win-win for everyone, either leaders or researchers or government people on that. Thank you, sir. Thanks again, and we will come back. And I know that you have other engagements today.
I'll have
We
to
will
leave. Right. Thank
we
you.
will excuse you this time, but maybe we will catch up again with you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Uh, may I now ask my colleague Shruti to present on the policy brief, and then I will come back to thank you, Dr. Manjurul Hanan Khan, for joining us, sir, and we will come back to you to launch this program. Before we begin, maybe we will just request to go onto the menti.com. Please go on to the menti.com and use this code 812487. And we have a question on that. Can you show the question here, Shruti?
Yes, Jubair, you'd need to switch to the other slide, other page.
Jubair?
I have shared. Is it visible?
No.
No, it's not still the presentation.
Yes.
Yes.
Now the answer has come. What type of organization you work with? We have NGOs and society organizations, 3. We have lawmakers, 2%. Oh, it's changing again. And we have government bodies, 1%.
I request everyone to please put your information in. This is just required for our monitoring evaluation purposes. And while you're doing it, maybe we can proceed with the presentation.
Yes. So my colleague Shruti, maybe you can introduce yourself, few words, and then we can go ahead with the policy brief.
Thank you, sir. My name is Bedul Shruti, and I work with Italy Local Governments for Sustainability in the Sustainability Management team. I am based in India, in Delhi, and the work that we do is it spans South Asia. So I work in different countries of South Asia. And Bangladesh is also somewhere that I've been working for a long time, primarily because I am a Bengali, so I speak the language, and Bangladesh is I've always found it a very nice place to work in, actually, a very receptive place to work in. With our work, we've been trying to develop this policy brief under the CDKN project, that Kumar sir was introducing right at the beginning. This work, the policy brief that we have come up with, is trying to talk about urban resilience planning in Bangladesh. And this is about local urban resilience planning in Bangladesh, and how do we integrate it with the national planning process. So what we have tried to do is that we try to identify the main limitations for local governments, why they are not able to develop resilience plans, and what is stopping them from going ahead with planning, and exploring the importance, actually, of coordinating with national government, and the need for integrating with the national plans. And we have come up with five recommendations, main recommendations on how to support this local resilience planning and implementation. The policy brief is targeted towards the national and subnational governments. It could be used by anybody, the city policy influencers, and of course the financial institutions, practitioners like us, and so on. We do hope that this policy brief can be also taken up with the national government at a later stage. Next, please. So this is what we have done with the policy brief. This is how we prepared it. We did some secondary research. We came up with a draft, and then we circulated it for expert reviews. Some 5 or 6 experts have reviewed the draft. And with the second draft, we've had a policy dialogue where we presented it to a larger group of people. And with the comments, we've finalized now the final policy brief. And this is what I'm trying to present here. Next, please. The first thing about introducing urban resilience planning is that we understood that cities play a major role in urban resilience planning and in implementation. They need to understand what their local climate impacts are if they have to take actions on climate. Reporting to the national government is essential, reporting on not just their climate scenarios, but also on the risks that they face, on the actions that they are taking. And this is where regular monitoring is important, because what we have come across is that cities take up a lot of actions on climate change, but not all of it is actually reflected in the national plans because of a lack of communication between the cities and the national governments. And this needs to be checked and improved, because that will also ensure that budget can be allocated appropriately for action at the local level. Next, please. These are some of the tools that we have identified during our study, during our secondary studies, and there are a lot of other tools as well. This is not an exhaustive list, of course. But some of the more easier tools which can be used by local governments, and this can be used by them for not just planning, but also for maybe engaging with other stakeholders, talking to developing their skills to talk to the central government, and so on. So there's a whole lot of tools that we have listed in the document as well. Next, please. What we realized is that integrating the local resilience plan at the national level is extremely important. So it's not just important to have the local governments plan and implement at the local level, but it also needs to go to the national government level. And that's what we have been trying to promote in this policy brief. What needs to be done is that it's difficult because of limited resources, because of political interferences, the institutional mechanism that is existing, it does not allow for this integration. It does not allow for the communication very freely. Not to say that it actually stops it, but it does not promote it as well. Aligning with existing national climate change policies and the city master plans is important, so that you can develop your resilience plans according to what the national government is also trying to promote. And this is where these tools, the ones that I mentioned in my last slide, these come in very useful, because they can actually help the cities, the local governments, to undertake climate risk assessment at the local level. They can help you to prioritize the risks. They can help you to develop the action plans and to monitor them. And this can be then also, this can be used to then report to the national government at a later stage. Next, please. These are some of the key national policies which we reviewed during the study. We have reviewed the National Adaptation Program of Action, the NAPA of 2005. The Bangladesh Climate Change Strategy and Action Plan was developed in 2009, and it is under revision. I think the 2021, although it has been done, but it is not yet published. It is not public yet, so it's not yet mentioned in the policy brief, but this is under revision. The NDCs, the Nationally Determined Contributions of 2015, and now there is a roadmap for implementation as well of 2020. There's a National Adaptation Plan of 2018, and finally the Bangladesh Delta Plan, which is kind of the latest long-term and integrated policy. It's actually covering different sectors, and also it also identifies some hotspots, which vulnerability hotspots actually. Some 6 hotspots have been identified in the plan, and it promotes working in these directions. Next, please. So these are the policy recommendations. So like I said, we've come up with some 5 broad policy recommendations from our assessments. So the first one is about vertical integration and participation in the national consultation process. What we have understood is that local government institutions are not always aware of the national goals, the national policy, the policies, each of them have different goals, and they are not always aware of it, although they are the ones who are implementing those policies. So there's a limited consultation between the national government and the local government. So there's a gap in the understanding of the two agencies. And what happens is that because of that, either the local governments are not able to fulfill those goals, and also the national policies do not reflect the local requirements. So it's a two-way limitation that we are facing. So what we recommend is that ministries, the central ministry should proactively involve the local government institutions along with the NGOs and CBOs during the consultations of policy and research institutions. So all of these need to be involved. So what this will help in is that it will promote a regional planning, not just urban planning or rural planning, but it could actually promote integrated planning of urban and rural areas. If you can get different stakeholders together and talk to them at one table. What we can use is that project monitoring mechanisms, which we are coming later on, but these monitoring mechanisms can also feed into this integration process, because from that monitoring, the results of the monitoring can actually be transmitted to the central government through these discussion forums. And the use of effective local resilience building tools can increase participation. And when they are developing the local action plans, and when the local governments are developing these action plans or implementing them, these tools can help to engage with other stakeholders, and these tools can actually help to increase their acceptability and ownership. Yeah, next, please. Next, please. Yeah. The increased resource allocation to accelerate local climate actions. This is an obvious one. Everybody needs money to implement it. So what happens is that most of the larger cities, sometimes they allocate funds for climate action, but they don't really have a separate budget head. Most cities don't have a separate budget head for climate actions. The other thing is that there is the financial arrangements between the national governments and the multilateral agencies. They don't allow for channeling finance directly to the local level. And this is another issue that we have. And what we are recommending is that, firstly, the local governments need to make realistic financial estimates. And some of the tools that we have mentioned have these options of helping the local governments to take a very objective view of what can be prioritized and what can be used, and what are the finances that can be actually that is required and that can be accessed. Strengthening the climate fiscal framework to make the financial management more climate inclusive. There is, for economic recovery from climate shocks, of course, the Build Back Better policy is good. And of course, we want more autonomy for the local governments so that they can leverage public-private partnership investments. National knowledge management cells are proposed in this recommendation, so that they can actually help the local governments to understand what kind of finances are available, what kind of finances they can actually access, and they can support these cities to access those finances as well. So it could work as both ways. It could work as a training institute. It could work as many things, actually. So these knowledge management cells could actually be a very crucial supporting pillar for the local government officials if they want to take climate action. And innovative financial instruments like blended finance, loans, grants, bonds, all of these could be actually explored, so that they can, so that the cities they're not limited to just government funds and what is available from the central government, but they can actually explore other options of financing their actions, whatever is required. Next, please. Continuous monitoring and documentation. This was one of the more essential ones. So the local governments, they are not able to assess the outcomes and the impacts of the projects that they are implementing on climate. So what happens is that most of the development actions that the cities take, they do have some or the other impact on climate. And because all these actions are not necessarily documented or monitored, so these do not actually contribute to the national dialogue, the policy dialogues, the plans, the consultations. They do not really contribute to that. And this is where local governments need to make a change. They have to, they could actually use their stakeholder groups. They could use their own teams to monitor the efficacy of the development and climate actions. So whether the money that is spent is actually giving you the result that you desire. There are certain tools which are there, the allocation process, the dynamic adaptation model of BUET. So all these tools are there which provide reiterative models. So these can be repeatedly undertaken, maybe at an annual on an annual basis, and these could actually provide qualitative and quantitative data. And these improvements could be measured, so that what are the changes that you're seeing in the local actions, in the local adaptive capacity. Those changes could be then more actively monitored, and then these could be I mean, you can ensure that the funds are actually allocated in a proper way when you know where you need to channel your funds. Yeah, next please. Technical capacity is another requirement at the local level. For sure, local governments do not have sufficient information. They do not have the human resources that are required to perform climate actions efficiently. There is limited knowledge about climate change. So recently, there has been a spate of hiring planners at the city level. But unfortunately, even the planners that are there, they do not necessarily understand the impacts of climate change on urban development. So this needs to be handled. This needs to be checked. And the recommendations include participation in n number of conferences go on, n number of workshops, trainings that are happening all over the world. And nowadays, there is a lot of these online trainings and workshops which are happening. Uh, what we require is that, because everybody cannot, of course, participate in all these conferences, but what is required is that the municipalities ensure that the people who participate can actually transmit that knowledge to their colleagues. So this follow-up internal events is essential. There's an internal unit which could be set up, and then this could facilitate the capacity building initiatives. And the trainings could be generic, could be on general climate change issues. It could be on specific issues such as waste and how it affects climate, water management, and what does climate change mean for that, transport, regional planning, gender inclusivity. All of these are related because the climate change is a very cross-cutting issue, and the trainings also need to, I mean, the officials need to understand this aspect as well. So there are different trainings available. There are learnings available. There are documentations available, and this needs to be somehow facilitated so that the municipalities can actually learn from this. And the cities also need to be proactive in requesting training. So they need to identify what they are lacking in, and they need to then see how they can meet these challenges, which can be organized either through public-private partnerships. ICLEI provides a lot of trainings. There are other organizations which provide trainings, which provide help to municipalities and municipal officials as well. And this can reduce their dependency on external institutions, so that if they build their own internal capacity, it's just good for the city, because then they don't need to depend on somebody else. I mean, even if you do not know the technical concepts, even if you do not know how to do something, but if you know why that thing needs to be done, then at least you would be able to monitor that effectively. So even if you hire a consultant to do the work, then you are able to monitor that consultant, so that you know that, okay, the consultant is doing what is required in the city and not just giving you whatever the consultant wants. So that's the benefit of having this capacity building initiatives. Next, please. Next, please. Yeah. And this is the last one, the improved consultation and coordination with key local actors. So like I said before as well, there is a little gap in the social accountability of the development projects at the grassroots, and this leads to low acceptance of the development interventions. Now, citizens' participation and consultation in the planning processes right at the beginning of when the development interventions are planned and how they are implemented, that is not very often. It doesn't happen very often, and this needs to change. Cities need to start engaging with their stakeholders, not just local stakeholders. It could be institutions, it could be NGOs, CBOs. They need to start working collaboratively with them and partner with different institutions. So it's not just for the sake of acceptability, but also because a lot of people are doing a lot of work, and it's good to have a collaborative discussion when you're starting the work, so that you know that all these things are happening, or if somebody can actually assist you in some way, so you can identify those as well. The other thing that is required is interdepartmental coordination. There is also a gap about exchanging information between departments, not just within the municipal departments, but also between the municipality and other agencies. So there is development agencies, development authorities, and other agencies like the water boards and all. So those need to be also consulted together, and this liaising is very important, so that because climate being a very cross-cutting issue, you will require support from other agencies to be able to implement your activities properly, and that needs to be then taken care of. So these are our 5 important recommendations which we have developed in the policy brief, and yeah, with that I end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Shruti, for giving information about the policy brief, what has happened. Uh, if any of you, the participants, if you have any questions, we request you to please put it under Q&A, We will have a discussion now, and after that we will have question answers. So at that time we will answer them. Thank you, Shruti. And I'm so happy and proud that Dr. Munjirul Hanan Khan, climate change and environmental expert, and also the previous additional secretary with the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of Bangladesh, is with us. Dr. Khan has actually involved in the CDKN phase one also very closely, and we are so happy that he joined back with us. Dr. Khan, sir, maybe I will request you to please launch the policy brief first and give your maybe few of your remarks on the policy brief. If that will be good, sir. The floor is yours, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Imani. Let me take this opportunity to thank Dr. Salimul Haq for organizing such an important and excellent session for bringing local, regional, and international knowledge together and to share with others. So this is an opportunity for all of us to share our knowledge, to learn from others, and to think rationally for future planning and future activities. So thank you, sir, Dr. Salimul Haq, for your uh, event in which we are all of our benefited, and we are doing so much of things for climate change under your leadership. Thank you, Imani, for involving me during the policy brief formulation as well as for this event. Thank you, Shruti, for your very good presentation on the policy brief. I see you have given a very good and also very explanatory policy briefing so that people could actually understand even after the session when they will listen to your presentation through the YouTube or other digital system. Uh, Before I launch this thing, let me also share some of the uh, critical issues that would be really good for the policy brief. You know, what happened actually in our part of the world, we do actually develop lots of policy brief, lots of action plan, strategy, lots of documentation. We are very good at documentations. The problem is that what Solomon also mentioned about the implementation. what what would be the next step for the policy brief you have developed through this CDK Knowledge Accelerator project is the excellent one. I have gone through the policy brief. I have seen the policy brief. Uh, the way you have developed, you have bring actually in this policy paper, you have tried to find, show the impacts of climate change, and then you try to see the challenges and opportunity, how to do the urban resilience planning in Bangladesh particularly. So an integration of national planning process, how we can do that. And you have given a very good recommendation in which you have elaborated all these challenges, issues, and also opportunity and how we can go about it. Thanks for that. I hope that this policy brief will be used by our policymaker, our government agencies, our academics, our NGOs, and local level organizations, CBOs, because uh, this policy paper, if they could use effectively, I see you have given a very good process of integration of local knowledge into the uh, top policymakers' decision-making process. So this kind of integration, like the horizontal and vertical integration of the policy making process, in fact, would give a good result in future. So this policy brief, I hope that our policymaker, our academics, our NGO people, our international and national and regional knowledge broker will use effectively, and ultimately this will give us a result to develop an urban resilience planning for the people, those who are actually impacting by the climate change. So that's my brief. And I'm really honored, Imani and your team, that you have given me the opportunity to launch this policy brief. Through this session, I'm launching this policy brief, and also I'm uh, clicking the policy brief link so that people could actually access this policy brief uh, in future. So please help me to click the policy brief. Yeah, okay. Now over to you, Imani. You can now
Yeah.
continue with the question and answer session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, Dr. Mujirul Hanan. Uh, we are also, sir, very happy that we have joined the Gobeshona, and also under your leadership. I think I have seen you for so many years, not just only here, but also our meetings during various COP sessions. I think we are happy that under your leadership, Bangladesh also achieved a lot of activities and under the climate resilience. And now we are happy that you have launched this policy brief. This is the final version, what we have now launched it as part of this. And thanks again. And it is available online, so you can, anybody, if you want to go through it, and if you have any other comments, any other suggestions to that, we are happy to take it forward also. With this, I will just go to the next session. That is our panel discussion, and I'm so happy. I just want to invite Dr. Mujirul Hanan Khan to be part of the panel discussion, and we also have Dr. Taibur Rahman, Program Coordinator and National Policy Formulation and Implementation Climate Change Program, UNDP, and Dr. Jabin, Architect and Independent Consultant with us. And also we have Dr. Munsur Rahman, professor from Institute of Water and Food Management at BUET. And we have Mr. Moinul Islam, urban planner, Narayanganj City Corporation. So I just want to welcome all of you to this panel discussion. And maybe if I can ask you, Dr. Khan, if you can show some light on the thoughts of necessity of the capacity building at local level and need for integration of local and central development plans, sir, to support the urban resilience locally. Sir, your views?
Thank you, Imani. Thank you very much for giving me the floor again. Um in fact, you know, the extension of village. Now the cities, now there is, if you look at Bangladesh, if you go around, you'll see in every village there's a growth center is growing on. I mean, it's not known as a cities, it's not known as a township, it's not known as I mean, in the definition, if you go by the book definition, you will not say this is a cities or this is a growth, I mean, township. But practically, every villages are now transformed into somewhat growth center. And I don't see any planning for that under the Upajala Parishad or under Union Parishad or under city corporation. Our cities, like the big cities, are extending like anything. I mean, when we were in Dhaka 40 years back, uh, it was so small. We could actually take a rickshaw from here, one point to the next point, and we can actually cover the whole city by rickshaw. Nowadays, I don't know from where our city started. It started from Gazipur, or it started from Narayanganj, or it started from Brahmanbaria. I don't know. I mean, it's like yesterday I went to Mymensingh, and from Dhaka to Mymensingh in this 120 kilometers, I don't see any gap. So all are like a growth center. The big buildings are coming up. The people are now would like to see the all sorts of amenities that is available in the cities. They want to see in their place. So in, I don't know, another next 30 to 40 or 50 years, the whole Bangladesh could be turned into a so-called cities. So this policy brief, I mean, is very important for thinking about the capacity building of the planners. capacity building of the public representative, capacity building of the local level people, and to give them the idea why we do need thinking on city planning, why do we need to think about the cities to be climate resilient. So this is, I think that capacity is missing. I mean, it's very difficult to actually assess those capacity because we didn't do any assessment on the capacity of the urban resilience per se for the planning or for developing. We do not know. I mean, I don't see any climate change specialist into the city corporation or into the Purosabha or into any kind of planning process. And you need that one. The capacity at the technical level, capacity at the implementation level, capacity at the local level. Otherwise, if we do not have that capacity, if we do not provide the technical knowledge to our implementer, to our policymaker, to our local level leadership, the local level public representative, then this part would be really, really ignored during the planning process and also during the implementation process, because we are now we in our planning process we have a very good 5 years plan. Now the eighth 5 year plan in place. In the plan there is always, you will get all the good things, all the wishes. We have the wish list that we'll have resilient cities in terms of the climate change, in terms of natural disaster, or in terms of the uh, uh, support program for the people, those who are city dwellers. But practically, you need to actually set a system by which you can enhance the capacity of your different stakeholders from top level to the down level. So that part is missing. I think this policy paper identified the right things, that capacity building from the local level to the upper level is very much needed. And without that, you cannot actually ensure the urban resilience planning for the existing cities and coming new cities or urban growth center or whatever you say. So that's, I think that part is really, really very important, since you have asked this question about the capacity building. Now the question is, who will take the action? The actor would be the government, actor would be the academics, actor would be the NGO, like international NGO or like EU, or NGO, other NGOs in Bangladesh, or we can have a regional kind of thinking, because our problem is almost similar in Bangladesh, in India, in Nepal, in this region. So if we have that kind of exchange of knowledge and experience within a set system, like in if we have a regional forum for that, I think it would be better to bring all the knowledge and share the knowledge with each other, so that we know what is going on in Gujarat, or what we know. If we know what is going in Calcutta, it would be better for Bangladesh, Dhaka, in order to plan, I mean, about the urban resilience. So that is very important for us to share also to our technical knowledge and experience. And also we can bring the best scenario, the case study, the, so that that best practices could be actually scale up or can be taken into consideration while I am or we are doing our planning. So think of that after this, how we can actually have a system in place by which we can share our knowledge and experience with each other, and also to influence the policymaker to think of capacity building at all level. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for talking on the capacity building. There is one more question, sir, for you. Maybe if you can answer that. If you can let us know that are there any opportunities at the government level to build the technical capacity in local governments? Is there any opportunity at the government level? Do
Oh,
you
yeah.
have like a planned programs? If you can tell us a
Oh,
little bit
no,
more.
that's oh yeah. We have actually local level training institute. We have our system in place. Like we have a city corporation, we have a Pauro Sabha. That you need a leadership, you need a champion to talk to them. So it could be uh, uh, international body. It could be one of our. For instance, if we from this Gobeshona conference, if the Gobeshona conference, after their conference, they could write a separate summary brief on different issues. One could be the urban resilience. And then after that, if they talk to the senior policymaker, senior politicians about the urban resilience, because the urbanization is an ongoing process and would never be stopped. So it's a really, really very important issues for all of us, for the government, for NGOs, for policymakers, for stakeholders, for anybody else who is actually are part of it. And we are also part of it. So the Ministry of Local Government could take the uh, actually the action or the implementation plan. We could provide the technical support to them. I think that's would be our approach. We cannot implement without their support, but we could actually provide them the pathway. But this is the pathway. If you follow this pathway, you can actually bring the result to all of us.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. If we have more questions, maybe we will come back to you on this thing. And thanks again for all your support, not only to the CDKN, but also on the government side to help on the capacity building as well as resilience planning implementation on ground on that. We have our next panelist is Dr. Taibur Rahman, is a program coordinator, national policy formulation and implementation of climate change program of UNDP. Dr. Taibur is a civil servant of the government of Bangladesh, has civil services economic cadre since May 2001, and he has more than 20 years of professional career as a civil servant, researcher, academician, consultant, and development planner and practitioner. He has a Doctor of Engineering and in Spatial Planning from TU Dortmund University from Germany, and worked in various developmental departments, including Bangladesh Planning Commission. Dr. Taibur, if you can talk about the need for integrating local resilience plans to the national policies through the vertical and horizontal integration to support the urban resilience.
Thank you, Mr. Imani. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think this is a very good initiative from ICLEI, and I thank them. I have some reservation on saying that integration of like urban resilience plan with national planning, because first we need integration of urban resilience plan with urban plan at a local level, and then we can think about integrating that with the national plan. So in Bangladesh, you can see that the planning is very much centralized. There is a planning commission, and the planning commission prepares 5-year plans. Recently, they have prepared Delta plan, they prepared prospective plan, all at national level. So now our planning and budgeting system are very much centralized, because budget are being programmed through this annual development program, which is based on 5-year plan. Recently, the Delta plan has proposes a new budget stream for implementing Delta plan, but that is not yet in place. So in this context, I think even at the local level, we have so many plans, like LGD has prepared like more than 100 Upuzila master plans. And also the Urban Development Directorate, they have prepared say like more than 50 city Paurushoba plans, master plans. Those are very much isolated and are not being implemented. That is natural, because first you have to have a system in place which links local plans with national plans and budgeting system. Otherwise, if you prepare plans, that will be just a simple academic document that will not be implemented. That's the case in Bangladesh. We have more than 100 Upuzila master plan. We have more than around 100 Paurushoba master plan. We have plan for city corporation, but those are not really, even Dhaka Detail Area Plan prepared by Raju, the Capital Development Authority. Even those plans have not been implemented. Only 10 to 15% are being implemented. So we are very good at planning, but we don't know why it is being implemented, because it has no link with the budgeting process. So how can we link these plans with the budgeting process? So that's the important thing. First, we have to decentralize the budgeting process. Then for that reason, you need a local plan. And for that reason, you need a local resilient plan, which will be integrated with local plan first, and then whole plan will be approved at local level. And then you can implement that at national level. Then you can get a link with the budgeting process. With this theme in mind, I think the Planning Commission commissioned a study in 2017 with GIS support called Integration of Local Plan with National Plan. I think you can look into it. I have not seen that the name of that document referenced in this document. Maybe this document can get some ideas from that document. That was not published. Maybe that was the reason. But the draft is available in the Planning Commission. So you can look into that when fine-tune your document. That is a very good starting point. So my argument is that you have to have a local plan, which will be there will be a separate chapter in that local plan as an urban resilience plan. So then you will be integrated at the local level first, and then we try to integrate that at the regional level and at the national level. Recently, you know that there is a that legal and institutional challenge. Of course, I will come to that later on. So I think, what are the entry points then? How can we do that? So entry points are, I think, the first entry point can be Bangladesh Delta Plan, which has been mentioned in this document. So Bangladesh Delta Plan has 6 hotspot areas, and one of the hotspot areas is urban centers. So that can be a good entry point. So if we can develop an urban resilient plan within that hotspot area, that will be automatically then will be linked with the budgeting process, because Delta Plan will be linked with the budgeting process somehow in coming years. So that is one entry point. Another entry point is that we are preparing National Adaptation Plan that has been started in 2019. So, and there is a key focus of the National Adaptation Plan on urban sector, on urban spatial level. So I think that can be another entry point, that we can include National Urban Resilience Planning process in that National Adaptation Plan process. So what are so like Planning Commission is currently preparing sector action plan. So you know that our planning process is sectoral. That is another challenge, not a spatial. Unlike India, India has a special level. They have panchayat plan, they have block level plans. And in Bangladesh, we have sectoral plans. So, but in the sectoral plans, if we identify special level plans like Upazila level or regional level, district level or regional level plans, then it can be also integrated with the national plan. So I think a sector action plan currently being prepared by the Planning Commission can be another entry point for integrating local level plan, local level resilience plan into that plan. UDD, the Urban Development Directorate, LGD, Local Urban Engineering Department, and the Planning Commission, these are the 3 very key important players in this regard. So Planning Commission gives like advisory services, and the UDD and LGD, they prepare their own local level plan. So these 3 team organization can come together, and there was a proposal from the UDD in 2019 that there should be a national physical plan across the country. And that proposal is being pending in Planning Commission since then, because of the lack of leadership, and Manjur rightly mentioned, at the various level. So I don't want to mention that. There is another entry point is that in the Planning Commission, in the current 5-year plan, the 8th 5-year plan, also in the political document of the current government, that My Village, My Town program or initiative. In Bangla, it's called Amar Gram, Amar Shohor. So that can be a very good another entry point. We can develop a plan on that theme for whole country, and that can be included in the 5-year plan, because in the 5-year plan it's already there. This initiative, there is a separate section on that in 3 chapters. So I think we can build on that. We can add local level resilience plan under that section, and then it can be again linked with the budgeting process of the final 5-year plan through annual development program. I think there is another some other initiatives we need to integrate those, like localizing SDG. There is an initiative at the Planning Commission and supported by UNDP. We call it localizing SDG. That can be another entry point, because SDGs in the SDGs resiliences are already included there. So we can build on that. We can expand that indicators at the framework at the local level. And localizing 5-year plan. There is another initiative Planning Commission is thinking of now. So we can start early to be linked with that process, localizing 5-year plan. So that can be another entry point. And another entry point, of course, the NAP and Delta Plan 2001 that I mentioned. So what are the challenges I see? The challenges, first challenge, of course, the institutional challenge, because there is institutional ego, legal overlapping legal mandate, like local government act, and also other City Corporation Act. Also, there are several other acts which allows local government to prepare their own plan. But the problem is, who will implement that plan? Who budget? From where we will get the budget? So that is not mentioned in the legal documents. That's the problem. So based on that legal documents, they prepare plan, but those are not really implemented because there is no budget link. So I think we need And we need a clarification of those legal documents in this respect. How can we link this budget process with that plans? And another problem will be definitely the human capacity and institutional capacity to prepare such plan. So that is very difficult. You know that at the central level, even we have some capacity lag. At the local level, you can understand that there's a huge capacity gap. In the local governments, at the union level, there is only one person. At the Upazila level, there is not as such. Upazila Parishad does not have as such. So those people who can really prepare a plan. There is no planners. So Manjul Hanan sir was mentioning that there is no climate change expert at the local level. So forget about the climate change expert. There is no planner at the local level. There is no development planner at the Upazila level. There is a statistical officer. He is acting as a planner now. So he's just a statistician, not a planner. So as such, there is no guidance at the local level to prepare a local level plan. So I think we, at the Purusha level, we have some planners recently deployed, but those are not really mobilized or utilized. So I think at the Upazila level, we don't have, but with the Purusha level, we have some. So we can build on that. We can mandate them, we can train them, and with the climate change expertise, because we don't need a separate climate change expert at the local level, because we don't have that financial capacity to employ so many people. But the planners already deployed there at the Purusha level, they can be trained on climate change issues. And another most important challenge is data and tools to analyze those data. At the local level, we don't have really information system. All the information system are centralized, national. So all the, you mentioned many of the documents, those the strategies, those are all national. So at the local level, the segregated data at the local level are very rare. So we don't have a huge database at the local level. So that is a serious problem. So data and tools to analyze those data at the local level and to capacity to use those tools are the serious thing. So these are the very important challenges you have to mention about that. And you can say that if we can build on that and we can think about the entry points, maybe in coming years, we can localize our 5-year plan, we can localize our Delta plan, our national adaptation plan. And in that case, we can actually integrate local resilience plan with the national plan. So that's my submission. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rahman. Very, very good points, and I'm so happy to listen to you and how we can integrate. I completely agree with you to starting with the local level and maybe go up on that. I have one question to you, but maybe I'll come back after talking to. Because on the budget front, you have said something. I just want to have further clarification on that. But I'll come back to you, sir. Let us have other two speakers, and if they can also talk, they give their opinion, and then maybe we'll have further discussion. The next panelist we have, I'm so happy that Jabin, she's an architect and independent consultant on the urban resilience. She's with us. She has more than 6 years of research experience in the climate change adaptation for low-income households in cities, along with 7 years of professional experience on the poverty reduction and community-based urban development. And also she's a teacher, undergraduate architectural program with teaching experience also. Ma'am, if you can talk about the necessity of the gender responsive climate resilience planning for the local level and integration of local and central level development, as well as recommendations for addressing the challenges on that. On the gender responsive, maybe if you can add that point here. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kumar. Thank you for inviting me. I was listening to Mr. Khan's discussion on the capacity and also Mr. Tayyibur Rahman's discussion on how the local level and where there are planners, whether the need for the planners. So what I want to just sort of go through it because my interest is in the spatial dimension of gender and with climate resilience. So I don't go at the very bigger level, but I want to see how I can interpret. So just to sort of start with something, if we think about on a sort of a very national level, we do talk about gender, and often we misinterpret gender as being women. So that's something I always start with, that I am not talking about women only. Rather, I'm talking about structural factors that actually limit an individual or group of individuals' capability or agency or even level of choices. So to reduce both the sensitivity and their adaptive capacity. So when we are thinking about resilience, and if we don't address these structural factors at the very national level, we always will end up in a problem like we talk about a lot in Bangladesh climate resilience activities, programs, and projects. So I think one of my understanding, sort of trying to learn from all the policies, is that we make a classic mistake that Professor Moser, Caroline Moser, wrote in 1995, that we always think about or conceptualize men or women in their traditional role. But we don't think about things have changed with the urbanization and urban trend. The gender division of labor has changed. The nature of gender subordination has also changed. So this structural problem, it persists even in most of our policy or most of our program. We tend to see women in their traditional role. We tend to see men in their traditional role. That's why their exposure to risk or their resilience, we don't think beyond. We always talk about women empowerment, put them as sort of the climate heroines or the vulnerable, but we don't think beyond the structural form, which I think is where we need to focus more on, that going beyond this traditional think about it. And everybody was talking about urbanization. And I'm very happy. I was reading through your policy brief, and I'm very happy that you mentioned or you picked up from the studies that 20% increase in the mortality during heat wave, which we don't talk about in Bangladesh when we talk about climate change. We always talk about flooding, we talk about waterlogging, but we never talk about heat. My personal work, when I was working in the informal settlement, or most of my research work, it says that the community don't talk about flooding as much as they talk about heat, because of the living condition, because of the building material, and because how we are organizing our urban centers. We don't talk about cities' water shortage in terms of access to water. When we think about a man or a woman, about their resilience, their access to water, how long they are getting the water, from where, what's the quality, what kind of water will not impact on their households in terms of their health, in terms of the workload, we don't talk about it. But those kind of things could have been reduced through very easy building standard. When you're talking about local level, I recently visited or went to 6 of the different Poroshobas who are booming, just booming in 10, 20 years. They have become from a very small rural center to suddenly an urban center. And to my I got scared because most of these local government are following the 1997 building rule, which only suggested that you can leave only 2 feet between from your plot size to the building. So now that they are building 16-storied with 4 feet in between space, and in some cases they're not living because the local government do not have enough person to oversee. So the building code, which has been adopted in 2004 to improve the ventilation condition, that were not adopted by the local government. They are still following the 1997. So if we are thinking about urbanization, we are thinking about the spatial development. We are definitely looking into a disaster in future because we are not thinking about in terms of the building or in terms of the public space. So if you look at the vulnerability to heat, one of the sort of improving the resilience is to create public spaces, open public spaces, which will improve people's ability to take a break. Even the recent corona or COVID situation gave us this impression that how much important is the public spaces. And that's very much true for climate resilience. And if you take a study in any of the cities, how much the open spaces are accessible to women, men, elderly person, you will have a very shocking study. In Dhaka, one of the studies says only 8% of the adolescent girls go to use or go to the park. And you are talking about climate resilience for women, children, younger people, elder people, and we are not talking about public space. We are not making the city gender responsive, especially their public spaces gender responsive. And the third point, that what I also sort of coming from a very personal experience of talking to local government officials, when I go to ask, do you have a gender action plan? They said, yes, we have. And if I ask them, do you know how to interpret it? Or what do you mean by gender in it? And what's your entry point? I see a lot of silence, because it's very difficult for them to interpret a master plan or a resilience plan, to think about where are the entry point for the gender responsiveness, where is actually the action plan they can work on, or what can be their strategy. So when you are talking about capacity of the local government, we do talk a lot about the climate risk, climate change, which to them can be very difficult to interpret into something ground reality. So I see a lot of options when you're talking about capacity building. I see a lot of opportunity to build this capacity, how to interpret this national level of gender responsiveness or gender action plan into something at the very local level. Just creating public spaces that can give the people of the informal settlement who are suffering from, or who are at the highest risk from heat because of the building materials they're using, just having an access to public spaces, or creating a path with shaded walkway, is something that we don't talk about climate resilience, but that's something where uh, the ability of different persons, or men or women, to improve their ability to better cope with the risk are coming from. So I think if we are thinking about gender, we have to come from not like saying gender is a cross-cutting things, we have to think about it, but try to interpret it, what it means to the actually the local level, to the urban resident we are talking about, how to prioritize what's going to be the highest risk for them. We may do a drainage plan thinking about urban planning. Urban flooding is a major issue, but we don't talk about whether having heat as a key concern, which eventually impact a household's health issues and eventually their health expenses. We don't interpret those bigger issue, national bigger themes, into a very small one. I think there are a lot of, we should not be afraid when we hear the term gender and think, yeah, there she goes again. Rather, we should be thinking about activities or strategies where we can interpret this smaller need of individuals, be that men or women, and think about how the resilience can impact through very small intervention. I think that's where we don't have to put gender as a separate issue in future anymore. We just have to be sort of mainstreaming everything together in there. I think there, I want to stop over there.
Thank you, Dr. Zabin. I think it's eye-opening for a lot of people to look into that. Gender means, yeah, as I know that the people are talking about more like women or whatever, like you talk about only on the gender issues, but not on the planning and not on the holistic picture. I think what you're talking about is very much important to that. Thank you. Maybe we will just come back if we have more questions on that. We have our last panelists, Dr. Not least, but Dr. Rahman, professor from Institute of Water and Flood Management from Buet. Thank you, sir. Thanks for joining us, and thank you. I know that you have reviewed our policy brief also previously, and when we were having our session last time, you are given very important points on that. Sir, if I ask you if you can talk about more on the tools that can support the local government, because you must have heard about, like all the speakers talking about, the capacity building is very much important. And it is not just at the national level, but also at all levels. I think that's what Dr. Mujrul Hanan Khan is also talking about, and other speakers are also talking about. But maybe if you can give your thoughts on tools that can support local government in monitoring and measuring the adaptive resilience, and I want you, I was told that you have few slides to showcase. Maybe if you can talk about for next 5 to 7 minutes, and then maybe we can have a final discussion. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. It is my pleasure to be here with the government policymakers, the NGO level people, and also the planners. So fortunately, uh, we have been working for last 10 years, especially within my last 30 years career, with the policymakers, NGO, that level of people. But if I would like to go back to my early career, say 30 years back when I graduated from the university and started working in this environment, I never thought to be in this kind of platform. Actually, research, policy, implementations, we completely separated the different avenue. Dr. Taibur is here. We have been working together for last 10 years. Mr. Manjurul Hanan Khan, he is also working in a very important position in the government. And I also listened from the policy brief that you presented, and also Dr. Jabin about the gender and other things. So all these things are very important. The issue is how we can take these issues in the tools, the quantitative tools, especially when we are talking about the adaptations. Most of the options we talk about in a very qualitative way, that from our perception understanding, we say these will be very important to implement in National Adaptation Plan and also in the government's important documents, say Bangladesh Delta Plan. We we mentioned a lot of things that these will be very important to do, gender mainstreaming, development mainstreaming, many things we say. But when we are going to implement from national to regional to local level, then we see we have a lot of constraint about the technical understanding, the capacity that is already mentioned. So even then, if we would like to mention something very intelligently in the documents like National Adaptation Plan that Dr. Taibur's group are now developing, we can see that it's very little thing we can explore right now about how these things can be achieved. The understanding is limited in that area. So I would like to focus in this area that we have been working for last 10 years about the quantification of the vulnerability, the need for the adaptation, the choice of adaptations, the impact of each of the adaptations through other adaptations. So we need to have a kind of network of the different kind of adaptations. So yeah, when we started working on that issue, and then we developed 2 years back, we developed one tool, the dynamic adaptation model. Then through the DECMA project, it was funded by IDRC and DFID that time jointly. Then we found that uh, the tool is very important, but the tool is has some constraint, like the macro micro level interaction. For example, um, uh, if we would like to have the adaptation deficit or need for cyclone shelter, then the macro level adaptation need can assess you that we have the current version of our model right now, that we need this number of cyclone shelters to be more adaptive in the local region. Then in the CDKN funded small project for last 1.5 years, we have been working extensively in the field, and we found that even there is some cyclone shelter, uh, the adequacy, the accessibility, the gender, the equity, these things are quite absent in even the cyclone center is there, but people may not have the access, the uh, accessibility, and also the adequacy, whether it is adequate or not. So at the macro micro level, understanding is quite there is a quite big gap. So um, We are going to address these things in our current version of the dynamic adaptation model that you have mentioned in the policy brief. And it will be always be part of the development work we are expecting. We are in touch with the National Adaptation Planning process with Dr. Taibur, and also we are planning to have a kind of joint workshop whether this kind of model can be implementable, starting from the national to regional to local level. Then it will be very interesting. I think research, innovation, development is the key issues that we are listening from Dr. Salimul at the beginning, that we need to have this platform of Gobeshona that will have a make a kind of follow up for the next year, where we are and where we want to go. So it is a continuous process. The new challenges will come. Many things we are not right now able to address in the current tools techniques. So it is a kind of dynamic process. The new challenges will come, the new knowledge need to be developed, and the quantification of the new knowledge is very important. Without quantification, it is very difficult to avoid the nuisance, the political, the social, power structure, etc. We need to have a quite strong version of our tool that will show the quantitative information, where, when, and what are the necessary investment plan we need to do. Otherwise, there will be a kind of different kind of influence from different power structure group. So I'm quite fortunate that we are able to be linked with the people who are implementing these things, who are making the planning, who are brokering the knowledge, and we are generating the knowledge. So I think it's a good group of people, and a long way to go. It's just starting. As I mentioned, that 30 years back when we started working, we never thought we'll be in this kind of platform. We always, the Buet is always isolated to generate knowledge, publish paper, and don't bother whether it is useful to the national level planning or not. But the trend had been changed, and that the change maker I would like to mention here is Dr. Taibur. He just graduated from his PhD, and then he was sitting in the desk of Delta Plan, and we started working on ESPA Delta's project, and we are connected. So I think the right people at the right time uh, to be connected is very important. And the platform that you have generated through a click is very important, because we have the power structure of different people in different leaders. That Salimul already explained, that the leaders. So each of the sectors, we have different leaders. So connecting the leaders are very important. So I think we'll be able to go whatever necessary to develop. And thank you very much again for inviting me here from our side. And our tools are being developed not by only one person. Say hundreds of people are working behind it, and and a couple of many years are necessary to realize this, updating these things. Students will be using the local level, people will be using, students will update it as necessary, the academicians will use, planners will use. So I'm very happy to see our model in your policy brief. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. I think I completely agree. I think things are changing all over the world, not just in Bangladesh. People are talking about more on the practical experience. Though I'm not a researcher, I used to have a lot of questions like that. Why can't that research come to us and then we practice it? Not just only research means research and come on to the practical activities. I think it's changing all over the world, and we also want to thank you. I'm more a practitioner, actually. We want to thank the researchers also for bringing your research to the practical experience, practical usage. Otherwise, you were also talking about research was always a research, and then you write paper and it's somewhere, like I used to see that it's somewhere there, but it's not coming down. But we also, I think there is a line now. The requirements are meeting each other, and we have that platforms. This is very useful. We are happy to, and we are thankful to Dr. Salimul Haq also giving this opportunity to all of us to discuss and make sure things happen on ground on that. I know that we are almost we have crossed our time already, 2 minutes late. But if it is okay with all of you, we will take 7 to 10 more minutes to finish it off this session, and then we will close it up. I hope it is okay with the organizers as well as with all the participants. Maybe 10 more minutes, and then we will finish it off this one.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you. But I have one question before I go back to other 1 or 2 more questions, maybe to Dr. Taibur Rahman. You talked about, sir, budget issues. You said that allocation of budget is happening, but there is challenges in allocating the budget and spending on ground at various levels. Can you just add 1 or 2 more points on that? Can you a little bit more explanation or more information on that? Why you said that budgetary allocation is a problem, either through the sectoral programs or various programs? You said that integration happening or not happening, and how do we spend that money?
Thank you
I
very
hope
much.
I'm clear.
You know that in our country, budget has been, for development purpose, the budget has been allocated by the Planning Commission annually. So we call it annual development programs. So those are allocated through sectors. We have 14 sectors mentioned in our budget document. So they allocate budgets based on sectors, and the sectoral ministries proposes programs and projects to the Planning Commission for the approval, and the Planning Commission approves that. So in those proposals, the spatial level consideration is very rare. That's the main problem. So when you allocate budget sectorally and don't consider regional scale or local scale, then definitely you miss the local needs and integration of the neighbors of localities. So that's why I think in our budgeting process, we need some reshuffling and change to allow local level budget allocation. We have some block allocation for the local level, but those are only for meeting immediate needs, not for the implementing long-term plans, 5-year plans or something. So those we have some block allocation for local level, but those are insufficient for implementing any such resilience plan.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for further information, sir. There is one question on the youth-led research projects. I know Mr. Taibur has answered, but maybe I just want to hear other panelists if they want to add anything. The question is, what are your suggestions for youth-led research projects to initiate and implement in local levels? What are the obstacles that youth needs to overcome for playing active roles in resilience and integration? Mr. Rahman has written, maybe Mr. Rahman, you can maybe read your or give your answer, and I will ask all other panelists if they want to add anything on the youth-led research projects to initiate implementation at local levels.
Yeah,
Mr. Taibur?
I think youth participation at the planning process, I may focus on that. So in the planning process, there is a consensus nowadays that it should be a whole of society approach and also no one left behind approach. So based on those 2 principles, I think youth should be part of that planning process. And the question is how youth can participate. So should they participate individually? We identify individual youth thinkers, or should there be a platform for them? So that's why I actually recommend that there should be a youth platform at the local level so that they can come through a platform, not through individual capacity, like a CPOS, NGO, a local level NGO, or any non-profit youth organization. I understand that it's difficult to have a youth organization at all local levels. Maybe a national level NGO can coordinate that. Some other we have already, so youth-led organization. So I think because youth should have special needs, right? Youth have their own needs and own things on that. So I think like other cross-cutting issues, gender, youth should have also a separate voice, and they should have a separate platform for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Daibur. Any other panelists you want to add anything on this question? The one question on the youth and how they can participate, how they can lead the resilience planning at local level.
Can I have
Yes,
the
Rahman.
yeah?
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So one important thing is that if you would like to share the information with the local level, bridging the local level, the regional and national level, only to share the information, it is very difficult actually. So if we are going to do something, so it's a need-based learning actually. So for example, we are going to construct say 5 cyclone shelter in the coastal zone. So where to install this or construct these cyclone shelters, we usually make a good planning from the upper level, and then we implement it. But in terms of the adequacy, the accessibility, the equity and gender, these issues that are very important the local for the successful adaptation at the local level. So it's very difficult to do these things from the upper level. So we need to go and then try to learn from them actually, and their indigenous approaches to access to this kind of specific kind of say shelters or something like that. So I think learning should be the both way. If we think that we know many things and then going to teach them, it will not be effective and it's not true actually. We should learn. I think many things we need to learn from the local community rather than teach them from our side. So this knowledge should be documented and should be embedded and should be quantified by our group, but the knowledge should come from the bottom side. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Zubin,
Um,
can you add anything?
yes, if I can add something, my request will be to the youth group to become more active in a way. When we start thinking about urban resilience, we often do not have enough evidence to guide which way the policy or the program should be. And in terms of the spatial term, like space use, when I was talking about increased heat, we the first thing that I learned from this, or where my first concern about heat came, was from the discussion of the very youth group, when we were saying that we don't have a space to go when it's too hot. We can't go to the park because the girls were saying we can't go to the park, at least the boys can go. The boys were saying that we go to the rooftop and we do something like that. So if you ask me, I see a lot of gap in the ground-based evidences, which can lead us where we can think in terms of the spatial resilience in spatial terms, and especially the need of different groups. And I think the youth group can, if they are thinking about doing research, they should start bringing up these evidences, which will eventually feed into the local government, to the central government, to the national plan. I will really urge anybody who's interested about climate resilience to start just gathering from their neighborhood. Think about what kind of space can help them improve their risk around the heat, what kind of space or what kind of physical environment can help them to better cope with flooding or waterlogging. I think that's where all the interesting thing can happen, and we can learn from them. We can always learn from them.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for that intervention. There is a follow-up to that, how easy or how easily youth can have intervention to execute their projects in implementing. I say that from my side, I request all the youth groups. I think now there are a lot of platforms coming up at the city level. We ourselves have created, even in Bangladesh cities, my colleagues can add further from my colleagues in Bangladesh can add further to this. But we create a lot of platforms to all of them, not just only for gender, for youth, for academic institutions, for NGOs, for government departments. We created a platform. We called it like local action team. Sometimes we also have gone to various when we prepare a city action plan. We went to each ward. We call it in Indian context, it's a ward level mapping. But in Bangladesh also, I think you have that. So at a local zonal atlas or zonal mapping type of things which we have created, and to create that plan, we have started involving all the stakeholders. That includes youth also on that. So you, by involving yourself, and I think Dr. Jubin is saying that your experience can also be brought in into that, how it has created a problem, how it has helped you to implement some of those actions on ground. Maybe that experience, if you can bring that up, and that can be add to the action plan, and it can be, maybe budget can be allocated to that, and it can be implemented further on that. So this is one thing which I just want to. I have that type of experience, and a similar experience has been told by other panelists also on that. I just want to stop here. We already crossed 13 minutes into our to the beyond our session time. So I request everybody, all the panelists, to please, and also participants, to please complete the Mentimeter poll before leaving. This is one thing. And I just also want to thank each and every panelist for taking time off from your busy schedules and joining for this session. Very interesting one, and I'm happy. I also learned a little bit more as what I have known. And we also want to thank Salim Ul Haq and ICAD and Gobeshona team completely for giving this opportunity to us. And as I promised in my opening remarks, and also after Dr. Salim Ul Haq's information, we will bring more local leaders next time to talk about, and maybe they can either, including the gender balanced local leaders, they can give more information on how actively they are involved, how actively they are planning, and how actively the resilient action plans are implemented on ground on that. So with that, I will just want to close this session here. Maybe I just want to give Dr. Munzirul Hanan Khan final words, sir. How useful, or how do we take it forward from here to the next level? Dr. Salim Ul Haq has challenged me with your closing words from your side, and we will close it.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Imani, and also the panelists. They have given a very good idea and also critical issues to be think further, particularly gender issue, particularly youth, and also local-led planning process, how to be integrated into our national level planning process. So uh, to address the urban resilience issue. I think this after this session, what you can also discuss among yourself and also with the CDK, and how we can go further from the policy uh, level to action level. Because this is a policy level discussion. We are talking about the challenges and gaps and opportunity, but we should discuss about the action on the ground. If we can do that, the action on the ground, only then we can actually use this policy paper effectively, and also we can address some of the urban issues while we are planning for resilience purpose. So this, the whole discussion has given us a very good idea of urban resilience issues, particularly the policy process, gap, monitoring, linking of local level to the upper level, and also how to involve the youth, gender, and also to think about the whole range of issues during your policy formulation. So this discussion definitely will give us a very good opportunity for further discussion and also to take action in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for your closing remarks. And I just again reiterate thanks a lot to Gobeshona team, Dr. Salimul Haq, and everybody. Please complete your Mentimeter question if you have not yet done it. Once again, thanks to each and everyone. Thanks to all my ICLEI colleagues, ICLEI team who has organized this at the last moment. But it was a good discussion we had, and thank you. Thanks again. And as Dr. Salimul Haq said, that we will come back again with more leaders and more action plans discussion on that. Thank you. Thanks a lot, and we'll close it.
Thank you.